Monday, May 11th, 2020, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So the title of the video today is, has President Trump hammered the final nail in the coffin of the petrodollar? It might sound counterintuitive. You might think that President Trump would want to save the petrodollar. And I've spoken a lot of times about the petrodollar in the last several years. I've got a series of videos entitled China Delivers Knockout Blow to Petrodollar. I've got a part 1, which is one of my best videos in terms of views. I've got a part 2 and part 3. I'll put them up in the cards and in the description. It will help you understand what the petrodollar is all about. The first one was September 2017, second one October 2017, and the third one January 2018. So it's weird because there was a story about Saudi Arabia, I think late Thursday US time. It came out in the Wall Street Journal, and it says US to remove Patriot Missile batteries from Saudi Arabia. I didn't see this story. I've looked at the story on the Wall Street Journal, which I subscribe to. It's only got 17 comments, which I thought was unusual. I think this is a much bigger story. But there is a publication that has seen the significance, in my opinion, of this story. And it's the Spectator.co.uk, Spectator magazine. I saw this article this past weekend in the Spectator online, and I thought, wow, this is very significant. How come people are not talking about it? And it makes you wonder about what's going on behind the scenes. One photo that's very interesting, this is from 2017. The architect of the petrodollar met President Trump at the White House. Nice Freemasonic handshake, of course. Mr. Kissinger, or Dr. Kissinger, was an agent, or still probably is an agent, of the Rockefeller family. Top globalist. He was, of course, the Secretary of State at the time that the petrodollar system was drawn up by him. So just give you a little bit of background on the petrodollar. Even though I think you should watch my videos, they will help you understand the petrodollar. But this is just a quick summary here, and I got this from financialsense.com. One of their articles, I put that in the description as well. So I'll go through the rise of the petrodollar system. And it says the petrodollar system originated in the early 1970s in the wake of the Bretton Woods collapse. President Richard Nixon and his globalist sidekick, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. So it makes you wonder, why is President Trump meeting with a top globalist? The guy who is the poster child of globalization, or the globalist, for the last 50, 60 years. If he's fighting these people, right? So I continue. Knew that their destruction of the international gold standard under the Bretton Woods arrangement would cause a decline in the artificial global demand for the US dollar. Maintaining this artificial dollar demand was vital if the United States were to continue expanding its welfare and warfare spending. In a series of meetings, the United States, represented by then U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and the Saudi royal family made a powerful agreement. According to the agreement, the United States would offer military protection for Saudi Arabia's oil fields. The U.S. also agreed to provide the Saudis with weapons and, perhaps most importantly, guaranteed protection from Israel. I guess nowadays is Iran. The Saudi royal family knew a good deal when they saw one. They were more than happy to accept American weapons and the U.S. guaranteed to restrain attacks from neighboring Israel. So I'll go down quickly here to the terms laid out by the Americans, and they're quite simple as it says here. The first point is the Saudis must agree to price all of their oil sales in US dollars only. In other words, the Saudis were to refuse all other currencies except the US dollar as payment for their oil exports. Number two, the Saudis would be open to investing their surplus oil proceeds in US debt securities. So there you go. The other thing that I would say is that Saudi Arabia is OPEC, right? And if Saudi Arabia is doing all its dealings in dollars, all the other OPEC countries will deal in dollars as well. We have seen in the past countries that try to deal in other currencies, what happened to them, like Iraq and Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi and Libya. So is it any wonder that we're seeing now a complete lockdown of the world economy? We're seeing the central banks, especially the Federal Reserve, come out with trillions and trillions to buy treasury securities. I don't think it's an accident. So let's go to the Spectator article, which I thought was really interesting. It's not an economic publication, but John Bradley, who wrote this, he's seen something. So it says, has Trump finally decided to dump Saudi, or to dump the petrodollar, in my opinion, as well? So let's go through the article. In a dramatic move, even by his own mercurial standards, Donald Trump has authorized the withdrawal of 2 Patriot Missile systems guarding Saudi Arabia's oil facilities, accompanied by hundreds of American military troops operating them. They were deployed last September after a massive cruise missile and drone attack on the Saudi oil infrastructure, blamed on the Iranians but claimed by their allies, the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That knocked about half of the kingdom's production capacity offline. Now Saudi Arabia has just 2 Patriot batteries located at Prince Sultan Air Base in the middle of the Saudi desert. They're not there to protect the royal family and its economic resources. That's important. But rather, the estimated 2,500 American soldiers stationed at the remote military hub. And then yet more bad news for the Saudis. 2 U.S. jet fighter squadrons have just left the region, and the U.S. Navy presence in the Persian Gulf is also being wound down. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end of an oil for security pact, Petrodollar, between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia that has been a linchpin of American engagement in the region for 75 years, but especially since the 1979 Iranian Revolution? Some reason they don't mention, the Petrodollar agreement with Henry Kissinger as well. Given Trump's habit of changing his mind from one minute to the next, not least when it comes to his Middle East strategy, one cannot be certain, but at this stage, it certainly looks that way. I think so too. After all, the sudden withdrawal of U.S. military assets comes just weeks after Trump told Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in a fiery phone call that unless OPEC cut oil production to raise prices, he would be powerless to stop U.S. lawmakers from passing legislation to withdraw American troops and military hardware from the kingdom. The Saudis complied 10 days later, but because of unprecedented oversupply and the historic lack of demand because of the lockdowns, Trump has clearly lost all patience with bin Salman and has carried through with the threat of withdrawing military support unilaterally, perhaps as one final attempt to coax the Saudis into further action on oil cuts. The president himself was uncharacteristically reticent yesterday when asked about the decision, only remarking, and I quote, "We've been taken advantage of all over the world, our military." But no one should doubt just how furious Trump is with bin Salman for destroying the US fracking industry by recklessly launching his oil price war with Russia in March. Maybe this is all by design. Maybe Trump needs to make it look like he's upset, because the only way to destroy the petrodollar system is to have what happened happen, right? Maybe this is just for public consumption. Who knows? U.S. fracking employs directly and indirectly as many as 1.7 million people, mostly in key Republican battleground states. Trump must win to get reelected in November. While his new anti-Saudi military stance will not bring back the lost jobs, it will not hurt him either on the campaign trail. It was left to anonymous officials to rub salt into bin Salman's wounds. The Wall Street Journal, which broke the story of the Patriot Missile withdrawal, quoted a bunch of them as saying the Pentagon's removal of the anti-missile batteries, as well as the other reductions, were based on assessments by some Pentagon advisors that Tehran no longer poses an immediate threat to American strategic interest. The Spectator goes on to say, in other words, if Iran launches another missile strike, the Saudis will be on their own. This is an extraordinary admission given his new focus on China as the enemy number one. Trump is no longer prioritizing the containment of Iran. Let's just finish off this article. Trump will, of course, be accused of flip-flopping, having stood by bin Salman through thick and thin over the past 4 years, while risking Iranian fury by taking out Republican Guard Major General Qasem Soleimani in a drone strike at the beginning of the year. That seems far away, doesn't it? In reality, he is resorting to his instinctive hatred of the Saudi royals. He spent most of his time as a Republican candidate attacking Saudi Arabia as an unreliably ally and terror sponsor and internecine Middle East conflicts. No one should therefore be surprised if in the coming weeks and months there's a corresponding softening in his administration's stance on the Iranian nuclear deal. Well, I've seen headlines from Pompeo that indicate the opposite, but who knows? John Bradley here of the Spectator might be onto something. So there you go. This is a complete collapse, I think, of the petrodollar system. And what will that mean? Where will the demand for dollars come from, or for debt that the Treasury needs to issue, especially now that they're going to run a $4 trillion deficit in one fiscal year, which is amazing, and maybe even more. The Democrats are talking about another $2 trillion in stimulus. Well, the Federal Reserve is picking up the baton from Saudi Arabia, but there is one problem there. Investors will eventually realize that there's nothing behind the dollar, that there's no petroleum and foreign demand from other countries around the world, because that's what gave the dollar its reserve currency strength. Was demand from all over the world because people needed to buy oil in dollars. And yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that while this is being changed, the whole world is on lockdown. Yeah, and it is frustrating being on lockdown, but I think we need to be patient. So if we're going to get rid of the petrodollar system, what kind of system are we going to have now? Well, I think it's definitely going to be going back to gold at the center of the system. Gold, of course, had been at the center of the monetary system for millennia before 1971, when the Bretton Woods Agreement was broken by President Nixon. And it's the only thing that will give the world monetary system stability. Are they going to try a world currency? Maybe they'll try an SDR, but I think gold is going to come back. It's going to rise from the ashes like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Maybe that 1988 Economist magazine was right. Guess they're off by a couple of years. But what about cryptocurrencies? I don't think cryptocurrencies are big enough and have a track record like gold to become central to the monetary system. Maybe the blockchain technology could be used by these people to put the new system on a blockchain system. But is it any wonder that China and Russia have been buying all the gold that they have in the last few years? And I entitled the videos I made, China Delivers Knockout Blow to Petrodollar. But looking at things, how they're evolving, maybe this wasn't a knockout blow, but just part of the script, part of the program. Because the globalists like Kissinger and even Bush Sr., they worked with all these people. They brought them into the system. They brought the Saudis out of the desert to become a major country, major player in the world arena. They brought the Chinese back as well. Who went to China in the 70s to open up China, to help open up China? Well, George Herbert Walker Bush was sent there to do it. So this might be just part of a plan. Who knows? For the public, of course, they have to make it seem like these people are our enemies. But I'm not too sure. You might have other opinions. That's my opinion. So there you go. Petrodollar looks like it's on its last legs, if it's not finished already. So it's 8:03 a.m. London time. Let's quickly look at the markets this morning, see where we are. We got spot gold at 1706, up just over $3. Range has been 1696.60 to 1713. Silver is up 7 cents at 1553. The Dow future is up 112, 24,434. So the stock market is up just under 0.5%. Sterling is up 0.1% at 124.17. The euro is unchanged, 108.40. The dollar is up 0.4 against the yen at 107.10. WTI crude is down 1% at 25.38. And to finish off with the bond market, the 10-year yield is up almost up to 70 basis points, 0.7%. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.